you'll get clear on what you're about, what a gift it'll be. And so many people have been beat up and kicked around by the church. This is what United Church people don't understand. I couldn't be a pallbearer at my father's funeral 3 years ago. You know why? Because I left the true faith and joined the apostate United Church. My father was an evangelist, Perry F. Rockwood. Some of you old-timers have heard him on the radio. I traveled all around. I've seen every church there is out there. Most of them are fighting over doctrine. Most of them have secret hidden rules. You know, they're all lovely and friendship and, oh, they're so great, and you got a problem, they'll come by with a casserole, but they find out you're living together and you're not married. Out for you. How about the Roman Catholic Church? You're divorced? Not allowed to be fed from Christ's table anymore. We've received members in our church in London from North Park, the big evangelical church. 2 amazing worship leaders. Because they found out one was a lesbian, they found out he was living with his partner without being married. If you'll get clear, my friends, clear to care about what Jesus cared about, you'll provide an oasis of spiritual community that people are hungry for. That's the dream. That's the treasure that brings heaven to earth. You know, I saw amazing things happen in Tupperville as they really got excited that this thing they believed and just took for granted wasn't something that's easily available. That's the amazing thing. You've got the treasure already. You're wondering, what do we have to do to be relevant and grow in this day and age? You've got the treasure. But you got to unearth it and lift it up. And you know what? You'll know you're doing a good job when you get some pushback from the other churches. And this is the hardest thing for United Church people. We grew up with the vision of ecumenism. We've got to change that vision to a multicultural vision of people of goodwill. Some of the Christians in the community will support you in this mission, and some of them will push back. In my first church, as we started to get clear about things in Tupperville, one of the ministers in the ministerial in Dresden wanted to kick me out of the ministerial. That's a good sign we're getting clear. In Aurelia, where I was a church, and that church went from 200 people on Sunday to 500 people on Sunday, we started getting clear and excited about this. Our youth started to be bullied in high school. They even sometimes were in fisticuffs because our church, they were saying, oh, you're the gay lovers. And in London, we get a letter every 6 months telling us we're going to hell. So there's a good litmus test. This community doesn't know your core values. They think you're about doctrine. You let this community know you're about kindness. You let them know you're about respect. You let them know you're about love. Most of the people will rejoice with you, but you'll get some pushback, and it'll be from Christians, fundamentalists. There's also things you'll discover that you didn't know. One of them is poor people have never felt welcome in our churches. And as you start getting your youth involved and engaged and continue broadening your music program and keep building onto it and get those gifts, you have more and more people come to worship in jeans and slacks and T-shirts. That'll be great. Because in every congregation I've been, I've discovered people who grew up who couldn't go to church. In Tupperville, I got talking to Mary Cooper. Tupperville's this little hamlet. Almost nobody in the hamlet went to the church. It's the only church in the hamlet. So in about, after the first 3 years, everybody figures you're there because you have to be under the old settlement way. So around the 4th year, things started cooking because they knew I was there because I wanted to be. So I got to know Mary Cooper. She didn't go to the church, but she was kind of one of the leaders in the little hamlet. And I said to her one day, Mary, how come you don't go to church? How come nobody in the hamlet goes to church? She said, oh, well, the church is for the farmers. It's the farmers' church. I said, what are you talking about? She says, well, my husband works for a farmer, and historically, most of the people in Tupperville have been the laborers for the farmers. And we couldn't afford dresses and hats and shoes and gloves. Oh. But Mary Cooper finally walked through the door of the church, and make no mistake about it, when somebody walks through the door of the church for the first time in a long time, it takes a lot of guts. It's hard to believe for us, but I'm telling you, I got a buddy, he's a big old tough guy, grew up in the north, he's got one leg, you'd never know it. He worked for the Department of Fisheries, And he's in business for himself now. He's been an AA leader for 20 years. When he decided that he wanted to see what the upstairs of a church looked like, because they always meet downstairs, he had to go to a therapist for 4 sessions to get his anxiety in control, just so he could come to church. So Mary came to church, and the community supported her, and we started to break down that barrier between the poor and the rest of us. And I want to tell you something. I will tell you, it'll happen. It's happened every community I've been in that has gotten excited and started letting people know they care about nothing else other than love and respect and kindness and fairness. And you get yourself a good minister with a good heart and some talent, they'll spread that word too, and then you back it up. God will amaze you at what will happen in this place. I'm telling you, your best years are ahead of you if you will take that buried treasure and lift it up and back it up. And so in about my 5th year in Tupperville, there was a gal in town. She was at the bottom of the social ladder. She was the joke of everybody, often with terrible words attached. She was married to a drunk. Her first husband was a drunk and almost killed her. CAS, Children's Aid, was her home every week. Her son, who was at that time about 7, he used to visit us in the manse and come to church every week. And so I got to know the family and helping her out. And lo and behold, one day, Vicki showed up in church. She sat right there. And when she came in, wearing probably her only fine dress with lots of decollage, kind of stood out. I could see the people rubbernecking. Oh, my God, can you believe Vicki's here, Vicki's here? And I just said, God, to myself, God, keep this poor woman from being killed by this community. And so we went through the service, and then at the end of the service, the choir used to come down and then go out a door like that. And 2 of the strongest, most respected leaders in that community, one was Bonnie Harvey, who just passed away recently. She, at that time, had been superintendent of the Sunday school for 30 years. And Elsie McCrae, the president of the UCW, they left the choir, and they went right down to where Vicki was seated, and they gave her a big hug. And they said, you come with us. And they just stood beside her at coffee time, and for the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, they just hovered around her. Do you know why? To give her protection. They let the community know, you mess with Vicki, you messing with us. And so Vicki became a part of that community. She left her husband. A couple years later, found a man of faith. She's got a life now. She may even be alive now because a church was willing to get clear that at the end of the day, all that matters is love and respect and kindness, and they backed it up. And you know what? It saved them. Because I discovered something about you country folks. You got long memories. And because you got long memories, you carry in the back of your head a shame story. Somebody in your family or in your background did something really stupid and lost some face in the community. And I discovered everybody in Tupperville had this little shame story. Everybody else didn't care about it anymore, but everybody cared about their own shame story. And you know what? When you can accept someone the Spirit's going to send you, whose life is so messed up they can't hide a thing, when you find the grace to love them and care for them and say, we don't care, we just love you, it's going to set you free of stuff that's been bugging you for years that you haven't even imagined you could be set free of. That's how it works. That is the magic and the mystery and the grace of this treasure of love and kindness. Well, I could go on. The point is, there's no faking it anymore. People used to go to church because it was the thing to do. Now, it's not the thing to do. But if you will claim that treasure, if you will follow in that pathway of Isaiah and Jesus and the ancestors who've kept that tradition alive, and say, we will let this community know that there's no judgment here for anything other than mean behavior, and that we welcome any people of goodwill, whatever labels they want to put on themselves. We don't care. That's the kind of Jesus we love. That's the kind of Jesus we follow. That's the kind of Jesus we're going to be. Friends, you do that. The Spirit will do the rest. The Spirit will bring you the people you need. Just set their gifts loose. You just love them, and you'll find your own salvation individually and as a church. This scripture will then be fulfilled here today, just as Jesus fulfilled it when he read that so many years ago. Your lives and your church will become a living Bible story, the gospel according to St. Harold United Church. A gospel people won't even have to read because they'll see it lived out in your lives and in this community. May God bless you on this exciting mission, should you choose to accept it. Thanks be to God. And now we move toward the table, that table of love, where we make no divisions, where everyone is welcomed, where everyone comes because it does not belong to the United Church of Canada. It's Jesus' table. We come to that table today to be fed so that this week we can live that mission and that dream of love and kindness and fairness.